Hello. So I'm gonna read a little bit more from the Legends of the Egyptian Gods by E.A. Wallace Budge, which I've been reading through slowly over the last several months, I guess. Takes me a long ass time to read a book sometimes because I tend to there's a lot of times I'll have a book I just keep in my backpack and I only read it like when I'm stuck somewhere. And because it's great to have a book like that, because then you never really give a shit if you're stuck somewhere, because you're like, okay, I guess I can catch up on this book. But anyways, so this book, I'm slowly getting through it, and it's by one of the kind of towering figures of Egyptology, E.A. Wallace Budge, British guy. Might be the most influential English speaking Egyptologist. Um, Although there's like Buck and Budge. Buck is pretty influential too, but I think Budge is more so. All right, so I'm in the part where it's actually like most of this book is it's all about it's all like just directly ancient Egyptian writings, but this one is at least has a part uh from Greece, or from I'm guessing it was written in Greece, but it's written in Greek by Plutarch, I believe. History of Isis and Osiris, with explanations of the same collected by Plutarch and supplemented by his own views. And Plutarch, he wrote extensively about America, the underworld, the different routes used to reach it, both uh, west from Africa, following the Gulf Stream currents, and north from the British Isles, island hopping, to the Faroes, to Iceland, to Greenland, to Newfoundland, to Nova Scotia, etc. Um, and But it's interesting because his name Plutarch, it's like Pluto is the Latin name of the underworld. Um, I'm pretty sure. I mean, there might be other. I mean, it's also called Infernus. Either Pluto. I mean, Pluto is basically taken to be the underworld, the same as Hades. So I mean, there's a chance that Pluto is also a planet, possibly even Pluto. Because Pluto, right, it was like supposedly discovered recently and then named Pluto after the god of the underworld. But it could be that actually that was the name of that planet and they just figured it out eventually and then pretended that they discovered it. Who knows? But either way, like being named Plutarch is like directly connects him to the underworld, to America. But this is not really about that. This is him talking about Egypt. Um, but it's pretty interesting. He was, I mean, I think he was only like less than 2,000 years ago, but he was pretty well versed in the ancient, you know, knowledge. Um, so anyway, he says, though it be the wise man's duty, O Clea, Clea, she is said to have been a priestess of Isis and of Apollo Delphicus. Um, though though it be the wise man's duty, O Clea, to apply to the gods for every good thing which he hopes to enjoy, yet ought he more especially to pray to them for their assistance in his search after that knowledge which more immediately regards themselves, as far as such knowledge may be attained, inasmuch as there is nothing which they can bestow more truly beneficial to mankind or more worthy themselves than truth. For whatever other good things are indulged to the wants of men, they have all, properly speaking, no relation to, and are of a nature quite different from that of their divine donors. For 'tis not the abundance of their gold and silver, nor the command of the thunder, but wisdom and knowledge which constitute the power and happiness of those heavenly beings. So, I mean, like he's talking about them as, he says heavenly beings, right? So for us, we hear that and we think that means like uh this magical invisible place called heaven, where there's some magical beings with wings and they live there in a cool castle or something. But in real English, like even probably when this was written by Budge, they still probably knew that the English word heaven literally just means the sky. So that's what it's translating it from the Greek word for the sky. So it means the beings that live in, entities that live in the sky or that are in the sky. So, which is to say the stars and the planets. Um, and so the knowledge that they bestow is the knowledge of themselves, basically. Like we use the cycles of the moon and the sun and the planets to chart time, right? Like even think about it, like how would you be able to say if there was no sun going around the planet each day, you know, like we would have to, it would be very difficult to like um you know measure time. You'd just have to rely completely on clocks, and if you didn't have a clock, you'd kind of be screwed. um So I think that, he, although he's still kind of talking about them as anthropomorphically, um, that, but this fits more with the reality that the knowledge that you should pray to the, planets and stars for knowledge about their nature, and that this knowledge will be beneficial to mankind. And so yada yada. For 'tis not the abundance of their gold and silver, nor the command of the thunder, but wisdom and knowledge which constitute the power and happiness of those heavenly beings. So that's a big, that's what he's saying. He's saying, because that's not what we think. We think it's all about their power and their this and that. But he's saying, no, knowledge and truth. It is of their nature, which is to say their cycles in the sky. Like once, if you like just watch them every single day or every single night, and that's how you can best quote unquote worship them and benefit from them, by gaining from their knowledge, the knowledge that pertains to them. It is therefore well observed by Homer in the Iliad, 13, page 354, and indeed with more propriety than he usually talks of the gods. When speaking of Zeus and Poseidon, he tells us that both were descended from the same parents and born in the same region, but that Zeus was the elder and knew most. So that may mean actually that he knew most. It may actually be a sort of playful way to say that we know the most about him, because Zeus, being Jupiter, probably attracted the most, a lot of attention, and Poseidon, I'm not even sure which planet Poseidon is, but I think it's must not be one of the main ones, because Poseidon is not one of the weekdays. The weekdays are all the main planets. uh Sunday, I mean, and including the sun and, or along with the sun and the moon, like Sunday, moon day, Mars Day, basically, Martes, uh, Miércoles, Mercury, Odin's Day, Thursday, Thor's Day, you know, Jove, Jupiter, Saturday, Saturn's Day, Kronos, etc. Loki probably, and yeah. So, so basically, yeah, there's less knowledge about Poseidon. So it says that Zeus was the elder and knew most. So that could mean that we have longer standing and more extensive knowledge regarding Jupiter than whatever obscure planet or star Poseidon is. Maybe Poseidon is the real Pluto. Maybe that was the name of. Maybe that was what Pluto was meant to refer to. Um, who knows? Anyway, um, so tells us that. So Homer, with propriety, tells us that both were descended from the same parents and born in the same region, but that Zeus was the elder and knew most, plainly intimating thereby, thereby that the empire of the former was more august and honorable than that of his brother, so more old and honorable than that of his brother, as by means of his age he was superior and more advanced in wisdom and science. So science, like you don't hear that in most modern people's conception of what ancient religion or what just religion traditionally was meant to be about. But this is the reality. I mean, Plutarch, I mean, he definitely has, I mean, I don't know. He might make some mistakes, who knows? Like, but in general, like he's one of the best sources you can go to if you want like a clear and concise explanation of, or relatively, I mean, you want to go to Hamlet's Mill, honestly, modern book to, but in general, like Plutarch is a great, great red pill, great, you know, illuminator of a lot of this the ancient traditions. Um, and so it's very interesting. He was the empire of the former. So the empire of the former, um, it could again refer to like the amount of uh, religious texts and hymns and stuff, and the amount of study dedicated to that particular planet, charting its cycles and cataloging it and whatever, religiously and ritualistically. So that may, and more advanced in wisdom and science. So honestly, I would lean to taking it that way, to interpreting that as what he means when he says Zeus knew most, as actually meaning that uh, mankind has gained more knowledge about Zeus and from Zeus. Because I mean, you can say like I learned this from Jupiter because I watched the spot on the horizon where Jupiter rose each morning, each night or something, and where it set on the other horizon, and I, recorded all this. And so anyway, let's see. Wisdom and science. Nay, 'tis my opinion I own that even the blessedness of that eternity which is the portion of the deity himself consists in that universal knowledge of all nature which accompanies it. So I'm guessing that the deity himself also means Zeus, that he's still talking about Zeus. Nay, 'tis my opinion I own that even the blessedness of that eternity which is the portion of the deity himself consists in that universal knowledge of all nature which accompanies it. For setting this aside, eternity might be more properly styled an endless duration than an enjoyment of existence. So it's like we use, um, well, no, I was thinking that's Saturn. I guess we use Saturn also to chart time and everything, but we use all these, or we used to, people used to use, and still probably in some places still do use the planets to chart time. And so that includes Zeus, Jupiter, it includes Saturn, Kronos, who from whence we get the term chronology. Um, so, we use the um, the cycles and the kind of harmonious interrelation, like harmony of the spheres of the celestial bodies, um, to chart time and to just give meaning to life and time. So I think that's what he means, where without that, um, eternity might more properly be styled an endless duration than an enjoyment of existence. So that's my guess that that's what he means when he says that. To desire, therefore, and covet after truth, those truths more especially which concern the divine nature. So the specific attributes of that planet. Those truths more especially which, concern the divine nature is to aspire to be partakers of that nature itself. So when you're studying the moon, when you're watching it, charting it, including even reading about it or hearing about it, you're partaking of that divine nature. You are being taught by, they are your your schoolmaster or whatever, and they're your guru, and they're teaching you, and then you become an emissary for them, you know. So that's why in these ancient texts they say that somebody was like an emissary or an messenger for like Venus, or for the sun or something like that. It might mean that. um to desire, sorry, I'm just going to read this over. To desire, therefore, and covet after truth, those truths more especially which concern the divine nature, is to aspire to be partakers of that nature itself, and to profess that all our studies and inquiries are devoted to the acquisition of holiness. And to profess that all. So it's like, I mean, it's hard to really know like what that what the real meaning of that means, the acquisition of holiness, but at least I would say that you are acquiring holiness because they are the gods. Like all those things, everything eternal is a god. All, the moon is a god. If you are watching the moon and you're admiring it, then like in some way you can say like you were worshiping Soma, or you were worshiping the Eye of Horus, or you were worshiping Luna, or you were worshiping Moon, the Germanic god. So and it's just interesting. Nowadays, I guess you don't see. I mean, when you think of like, I guess people do still talk about studies and inquiries regarding religion, but it's largely just, it's just reading the texts and accepting whatever bullshit like interpretations are are given to us about those texts. But in this case, it was like you could literally just go outside, look at the moon, look at the sun, look at the stars, and um, you were acquiring, you were communing with the gods, you were uh, acquiring holiness, acquiring divinity, basically. Um, you're being, you're imbibing the eternals, the immortals. So in that sense, you were kind of like imbibing immortality and thereby becoming immortal. Especially if you're able to like pass on the knowledge and it becomes part of the interwoven tapestry of like, civilization. Um, so this occupation is surely more truly religious than any external purifications or mere service of the temple can be. But more especially must such a disposition of mind be highly acceptable to that goddess to whose service you are dedicated. For her especial characteristics are wisdom and foresight, and her very name seems to express the peculiar relation which she bears to knowledge. For Isis is a Greek word and means knowledge, and um, and which that's, I'm not sure if anybody corroborates that it has a relation to the Greek word for knowledge, but hey, who knows, right? I mean, Isis was definitely associated with knowledge and words. Let's see. Typhon. What the heck? Greek word and means knowledge and Typhon. The name of her professed adversary is also a Greek word and means pride and insolence. So Typhon is an Egyptian Teb. So I'm not sure if that is exactly her professed adversary, but it might be. And again, I'm not sure if that etymological connection is legit or not, but who knows? This latter name is well adapted to one who, full of ignorance and error, tears in pieces and conceals that holy doctrine which the goddess collects, compiles, and delivers to those who aspire after the most perfect participation in the divine nature. This doctrine inculcates a steady perseverance in one uniform and temperate course of life, and an abstinence from particular kinds of foods, as well as from all indulgence of the carnal appetite, and it restrains the intemperate and voluptuous part within due bounds, and at the same time habituates her votaries to undergo those austere and rigid ceremonies which their religion obliges them to observe. The end and aim of all these toils and labors is the attainment of the knowledge of the first and chief being, who alone is the object of the understanding of the mind. And this might be him being influenced by Zoroastrianism, because that was kind of the first major monotheistic